You won't believe me, but this is the truth. It all started with a dream, or so I thought. I used to have this reoccurring dream where I was standing in the empty field at twilight. The sky would always be so deep, bruised purple, and a cold wind would tug at my clothes. The field was endless, stretching out into the horizon with no sign of life, no trees, no houses, just the tall, dry grass whispering in the wind. But then one night something changed. As I stood there shivering at night, I noticed a small flickering light in the distance. My curiosity piqued. I began to walk towards it. The closer I got, the more the light started to take shape. It was a door, an old, withered door standing alone in the middle of the vast, empty field. There was no wall, no structure, just the door. I hesitated, but something urged me forward. With a trembling hand, I reached out and turned the rusty knob. The door creaked open and I stepped through, feeling a strange pull as if the door was drawing me in. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the field anymore. I was standing in a familiar place, my bedroom. But everything was slightly off. The colors was muted, the air was thick, and the silence was deafening. My heart pounded as I realized I wasn't in my world anymore. This was a different version of it, a parallel universe. At first, it was exciting. Each time I went to sleep, I'd dream of that door and I'd walk through it. I'd find myself in a different version of my life. In one world, my parents were still together, laughing and happy. In another, I was an only child. My brother had never been born. Each time, the details changed. Small at first, but then larger, more significant. I met people in those worlds too. There was Sam, a boy my age, who lived next door in one of the parallel worlds. He had a calm, wise presence, like he knew things no one else did. And then there was Clara, a girl from another world who was just like me, but braver and more confident. We became close friends, and I found myself looking forward to each night's adventure, wondering which version of reality I'd encounter next. Then I started noticing strange things. The dreams weren't just dreams. When I wake up, I began to see glimpses of those other worlds while I was awake. It was subtle at first, a flicker of light in the corner of my eye, a familiar face in a crowd that didn't belong. And then one day, it became impossible to ignore. I was sitting in a class at school when I noticed that the words on the board didn't make sense. They were scrambled, like someone had rearranged them. I blinked, and suddenly, I was back in that parallel world where my parents were divorced. But this time, I was wide awake. Panic set in. I closed my eyes, trying to shake the feeling, but when I opened them again, I was still there. My heart raced as I ran out of the classroom, searching for something, anything, that would bring me back to my world. It wasn't until I saw Sam that I started to calm down. He was waiting for me by the school gate, just like he always did in that world. "You're seeing it now, aren't you?" he said, his voice steady. "Seeing what?" I asked, my voice trembling. "The connections," he said, "the paths. They're all around you. You're starting to understand how your decisions affect everything." It was true. I could see them. The different paths, the choices I've made, the ones I hadn't. Each decision branched out, creating new possibilities, new worlds. It was dizzying, overwhelming, but also exhilarating. I felt powerful, like I could change anything, shape my own reality. With that power came a terrifying responsibility. One night, I found myself in another world where I never met Clara. The world was darker, colder, and as I explored it, I realized that without her, I was a completely different person. I was angry, bitter, and alone. And then I understood the weight of my choices. Every decision I made rippled through the world, affecting not just me, but everyone around me. The excitement I once felt was replaced by dread. One night, as I walked through the door in my dream, I found myself in a world where a small, seemingly insignificant choice I made had devastating consequences. In this world, a simple argument I had with my brother years ago had spiraled out of control, leading to a tragic accident. He wasn't there anymore. He was gone because of me. I woke up sweating and shaking, realizing I couldn't keep doing this. The more I traveled through these worlds, the more I saw how fragile everything was, how easy things could go wrong. And it wasn't just about me anymore. My actions could hurt the people I loved, even in ways that I couldn't see. I tried to stop dreaming, but the door would always appear, beckoning me to step through. I wanted to tell Sam and Clara, but I was afraid of what they would say, afraid that they would blame me for the changes I've caused. Finally, I decided to confront the door. I told myself that I wouldn't walk through it again. I would face it, close it, and never look back. But as I stood there, staring at that flickering light in the distance, I realized something else. The door wasn't just a gateway to other worlds. It was a part of me, a part of my mind that I couldn't escape. Next time I saw Sam, I told him everything. He listened quietly, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he looked at me with those calm, knowing eyes and said, "You can't run from it. You have to find balance. Learn when to act and when to let things be." Clara, too, had her own advice. She told me to trust myself, to believe that I could make the right choices without fear of what might happen in other worlds. But that was the hardest part. Trusting myself, knowing that my decisions could have consequences beyond my understanding. I'm still learning to live with it, to walk the fine line between the worlds that I see and the one that I live in. Sometimes I still dream of that door, but now, when I see it, I don't feel the same pull. I know it's there, waiting, but I also know that I have power to choose. And so, I continue to dream, but with a new understanding. The paths are still there, winding through time and space, but I no longer feel the need to explore them all. Instead, I focus on the world that I am in, the choices I make here, knowing that each one matters, even if I'll never see all the consequences. So, that's my story, how a simple dream became something much more, something that changed the way I see everything. It's strange, isn't it? How a dream can shape reality, how a door can open up worlds beyond imagining. But in the end, it's not the dreams that matter. It's what we do when we're awake.